Joining us now, Executive Vice President and General Manager Nick Caserio. Nick, thanks for being on.
Fellas, good to be here.
Coming off the win and into Week 5 at Baltimore. First of all, gigantic step forward, right, with the win over Tennessee.
Yeah, played well as a team. We talked about just playing 4 quarters of football. We were able to play, fairly complementary football. Didn't turn the ball over. Had the positive return on a punt return. Gained that first down. Defense played well anytime you pitch a shutout. I mean, the defense obviously played well, and offensively, we had a number of positive drives. I mean, scored in the first 2 possessions of the game. Kind of had a little lull there, and then in the fourth quarter, able to finish some drives, and then took advantage, took the turnover, turned that into points, and able to close the game out kind of in a 4-minute situation. So overall, I mean, certainly a positive development. We've played well in spurts over the course of the first 4 games. So to come out with a victory, I mean, it's certainly, it's a nice way to end the week.
Nick, playing clean offensively, just doing that, not turning the ball over. And look, I understand we got a 2nd and 33 because we did back ourselves up a little bit, but that was kind of the only time in a ball game where it seemed like we were playing behind the sticks a little bit. What are your thoughts about playing clean and showing the offense, hey, look, when you play clean, look what happens?
Well, when you look around the league, I mean, that's kind of what it takes. So you want to try to stay on track in 1st and 2nd down, put yourself in advantageous 3rd down situations. And anytime you call plays, whether it's a run or a pass play, if you're gaining positive yards, that's better than the alternative. So you alluded to that drive. I mean, we had a nice gain, then it got called back, and then we picked him on the screen. So then it's 2nd and long, and then we got stopped on a negative run. 2nd and long, and then CJ and Nico made a play. So, honestly, if you take those couple plays out, most of the plays were positive plays. Even from our perspective, there's still a number of plays where we made some mental errors where it wasn't as clean as we would like. So, we still, even though we made improvements, there's still an opportunity for even more gains. And that's what you're really looking for on a week-to-week basis. Just try to make improvements, try to limit the negative plays, and just try to make sure that the ball is going the right direction more often than not.
Nick, it's not like we're going to send Woody Marks to Canton yet, but it was a good performance. So give us your scouting report, if you will, on Woody Marks, what he does for this offense.
Yeah, Woody's been pretty steady since the spring. Doesn't say much, but he goes out there, and he was a productive player coming out of SC and then even going back to Mississippi State, and we talked a little bit about him around draft time. But versatile back. Him and Nick have done a nice job for us. We're right around 4 yards a carry in a running game or something like that. But Woody's got good balance. He's hard to tackle. He made some people miss. And he made some plays in the passing game. So he's certainly worked really hard. He's improved. And honestly, he's been consistent, even going back to training camp. And he took advantage of his opportunities in the game, had a few more opportunities, and was able to capitalize on those. And, it was good to see.
What about the pass protection part of things? Because Danny Barrett has to work with all those backs on that.
Yeah, we've talked about this at different points. I mean, part of a running back's job, pass protection is paramount, especially on 3rd down, because the number of the exotics that you're going to have to see, and you're going to get a different look. So the identification is important. Who you're blocking, are you doing the right thing? Can you physically block the man in front of you? Danny does a phenomenal job. They spend a lot of time in practice on pass protection. It's a skill that you can actually work on and improve, quite frankly. Not a lot of college backs are well-versed in pass protection, and a lot of it comes down to willingness and toughness. And you saw examples of that. I mean, I know everybody saw the play there, with Woody where, the weak safety blitz off the edge, but that's part of your responsibility. You get them blocked or you don't. When Tennessee got us early in the game, they ran a will and stunt, were able to pick the tackle off, and Nick couldn't quite get to the will linebacker. But those are things that you're going to have to deal with as a running back. So it's not just running the ball and catching the ball, but pass protection is an important part of that job responsibility.
Nick, we had a great talk with EJ Speed this week, and it was really fun to talk to him, just kind of hearing his story, how he got to where he is. And I always feel like he's a great example for younger players, because when he gets to the Colts, he's out of Tarleton State. He's got to make it on special teams. He's playing behind some good linebackers. Then he gets an opportunity to play, and then he comes here, and there's some great linebackers here. He doesn't really get a lot of opportunities, but the other day he did. What are you seeing from EJ, and what's he bringing to this defense?
Yeah, EJ's been great to work with. I mean, you alluded to his story, Johnny. It's interesting. You look at a player, he probably wasn't quite ready at the NFL, but he was 6'3", is 230 pounds, whatever he was, and he ran fast, has really good length. I mean, he kind of found a niche initially, made his way. He was a good kicking game player, and then when he played defensively, I mean, he had over 100 tackles on a back-to-back season basis. Yep. So it was a player that, we signed him. We thought, there's probably going to be an opportunity for him to play at some point. But I would say, regardless of what his role has been, how much he's played or has not played, his attitude has been phenomenal. I'll kind of give you a little anecdote, but in practice the other day, and D'Amico mentioned this to the team after practice, but when the offense is going, typically the defense is on the side or they're watching what's going on. And Kirk made a play down a seam, third down play, and EJ was one of the first players there to congratulate Kirk, on the play. So it's in practice, but it's just showing his selflessness, and he's willing to do whatever it takes for the team. And he played defensively a smaller role early on in the first 3 weeks. But he was one of our best players in the kicking games, had multiple tackles, and then he had an opportunity to play defensively the other day. And he shows up. His length, his speed, his ability to close space and cover ground. He's had a great attitude. He's got a great demeanor. He's got a great approach, and we're glad he's here.
Yep.
Nick, can you discuss the offensive line? The 5 you had on the field for most of the second half, they were playing really solid. You have the 6-man in Blake Fisher. You also made a trade this week. What's the update with the offensive line?
Yeah, there's always a lot of moving parts, but I think that group, looks like probably the 5 that we'll go with, but things can change at any point. But overall, they played fairly well. For the most part, we talked before the game about, we weren't going to eliminate Simmons. We're trying to neutralize him, and he made a negative play there. Honestly, that play was more our fault than anybody else's. But, overall, they played well. They played physical. We used some jumbo. We put Fisher in the game, so that was kind of a different look for us there. But group works hard. It's got a good attitude. We're able to make some plays, and anytime you have success offensively, it starts, with the offensive line.
I'm not going to say I told you so, but the 6 offensive linemen.
Yeah, that was Johnny's idea.
That was my
idea.
That was my idea.
I don't know if Nick
Johnny was in the game plan meetings probably.
That's my contribution to the game plan. 6 offensive linemen. Speaking of offensive linemen, Nick, the trade with Cam Robinson going to the Browns, how did that come to be?
Yeah, we signed Cam in the spring, kind of had some question marks there, a little bit of tackle. We felt we had a good tackle situation. Tay's been out there kind of over the last however many weeks, and just felt like it made sense for both parties involved. Cam's probably going to get an opportunity to play a little bit more there in Cleveland, and we're going to go with Tay. Obviously, we've got to still make sure that we have some depth. We have Blake. It's a third tackle. Trent Brown's in the building as well, and there's probably some other players that we might need at some point. But Cam was good to work with. He's probably going to get a good opportunity here in Cleveland. So in the end, we just felt probably that was the best way to go and made the most sense for everybody involved.
Well, this goes back to the spring when you're in free agency and the draft period where you're just trying to fortify a 90-man roster, right? You never know how it's going to shake out.
That's exactly right, Vandy, and that's kind of how we approach it. So kind of let everything sort itself out, let the competition sort itself out, and then take the information in and look around the league, what's going on. There's a number of teams that actually ended up losing some tackles there. So, look, we're in a decent spot right now. If something happens to tackle, we'll probably have to do something, but hopefully we have some reinforcements in the building that could help us if we get put in that situation.
Okay, all this stuff about winning, it's great, but it's behind us. We are on to Baltimore, and sometimes when I say those words, I just cringe a little bit because it's not been great against Baltimore. But, Nick, this is a Baltimore team coming in that there are some question marks because there are guys banged up, and we've talked about that in the prep about do you know if a guy's ready or not. We know Matabike is not playing. That's the only one we know for 100% sure is not playing. But the scouting report on the Ravens and some of these injured guys, how do you kind of go about that too?
Sure. This is a week where a good example you prepare for everybody. I'd say just the Ravens program. This is one of the best programs in the league, has been for a number of years. They've had a tremendous amount of success. It starts at the top, with ownership and Steve, but Eric, Ozzie, and John. They've been there for a number of years. They've been able to withstand a lot of ups and downs. So this is a really good program, one of the best programs in the league. We have a lot of respect and appreciation for what they're doing. And then their team, regardless of who's on the field, they got a lot of good football players. Offensively, everything starts with Lamar. You're talking about potentially, arguably, 2 potential Hall of Fame players in Lamar and Derrick Henry. And then Justice Hill is a really good back in his role as well. So, they got really good skill. Good tight end group. 3 legit tight ends in Andrews and Kolar. And Likely, I know Likely hadn't played.
Right.
And then on the perimeter, Zay Flowers is one of the best receivers in the league. They're very explosive. They have a number of players that can make a lot of plays. Bateman is a player that's kind of his role is sort of grown and evolved. They extended him here in the spring or during training camp. Obviously Hopkins, his career speaks for itself, and they've gotten good production from Tez Walker, who I think he has 4 career receptions, 3 of them are touchdowns. So he's big and he's fast. A really strong offensive line, big, strong, physical offensive line. Defensively, you mentioned Matabike, who's one of the best players. They've had some guys in and out, but really strong front. A number of players that have been there for a few years now that they've actually trained and developed. developed. Really kind of it's inside out from the standpoint of Roquan, who's one of the most respected players and one of the best players in the league. I know he was injured there the other day against KC, and they extended, Kyle Hamilton in the offseason, and Kyle is kind of a unicorn for, what he can do. Drafted Starks in the first round, so they're really good up the middle. And then on the perimeter, drafted Wiggins there in the first round a few years ago, signed Ozzie in free agency. They have some multiple players and kind of move in and out. And then Humphrey in his role as a nickel, has been a really good player for a long time. So they present a lot of challenges on a lot of different levels. And, I would say they emphasize a kicking game probably as much as any team, maybe as much as us or a little bit more, probably on equal footing there. But good punter, drafted the kicker loop there this year. They drafted both the punter and the kicker at different points. So overall, this is a good football team. I mean, their record is what their record is, but, over the last 3 games, I mean, we've had our hands full, including going back to last year on Christmas where that wasn't our best performance. So playing on the road in Baltimore, hostile environment against one of the best teams in the league, we're going to need everybody, and it's going to take a good week of practice and preparation to put ourselves in a position to go out there and hopefully play good football on Sunday.
It's wild. I know it's not about last year, but you look at those numbers, and not only do they run the ball so well, but Lamar throws for 4,000 yards and all those touchdowns. So it's a really multifaceted attack.
They can do just about anything, Vandy. I mean, they run the ball well. I mean, Lamar, he basically does everything well. I mean, his accuracy, I think he's up there 66, 67, 68% passer. And then when you give him space, he's one of the best athletes in the league. So they present a lot of problems, and they put a lot of tax on the defense. So I think this will be a big week for us, just being assignment sound and just playing with good fundamentals and don't try to do too much. And tackling is going to be at a premium because they have a number of players that are good with the ball in their hands. So they present challenges. I mean, essentially, they've had a number of games that have come down to the last possession, not too dissimilar from our situation. This is a good football team, and we're expecting their best regardless of who's on the field for them.
Nick, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Lamar Jackson over here, Cooper Rush over here. They couldn't be more different than just as singular quarterbacks. But I know you say this all the time. You got to prepare for what the Ravens do. But I know they'll do some different things with Cooper versus what they'll do with Lamar. And you don't know about Lamar. My guess is you prepare for both of them. But how do you prepare for a backup that you might potentially see that's so different from the starters?
Sure. You start with a core and just look at philosophically, all right, what are some of the things that they're doing? Maybe there's some core concepts that are going to transcend regardless of who's playing quarterback. And there's certain things probably going to be specific to Lamar, and there's going to be some other things that are maybe going to be specific to Cooper. I mean, Cooper as a player, Cooper's been, in this league for a number of years. He's a really good backup. He's gone out there and won games as a starter. He did it in Dallas. We played against him last year there on Monday night. So there's a reason that they signed him during the offseason because he brings sort of a veteran presence and he's played a lot of football. So you look with the personnel, what are some of their strengths, what are some of their weaknesses, and if they end up playing Cooper, then maybe there's some things they're going to do a little bit more with him. But regardless, the running game is going to be a big part of what they're doing. I mean, as far as I know, Henry's still going to be at the game. Justice Hill's still going to be at the game. So their run game is still formidable regardless of who's playing quarterback.
Yeah. Nick, you're not old, but you're old enough to remember Ozzie Newsome as Ozzie as a player.
Yes.
All right. Ozzie as a player for the Cleveland Browns, and then he becomes an executive, and what an executive, really. And he's really worshipped by a lot of people around this league. What about the career that he's had as a player and then as an executive?
Rightfully so. I mean, he's had 2 Hall of Fame careers, literally. Hall of Fame career as a player, and what he's done in essentially building the Ravens from the ground up. I mean, very few people have done what he's done and the longevity that he's displayed over the course of his career. And even though they transitioned from Ozzie to Eric, Ozzie's still involved. But, I think for people in the team building sort of business and looking at it through that lens, what Ozzie did, how he's approached it, you can't have nothing but respect and admiration and appreciation. And there's a roadmap and a blueprint to sort of follow, understanding you have to make it specific to your team. But the way they built the team, I think they played Cleveland, whatever that was, week 2 or 3, and then they came out before the game, with Jonathan Ogden and Ray Lewis. And those were his first 2 draft picks. So you're talking about 2 Hall of Fame players that he drafted, Hall of Fame executive and a Hall of Fame player himself in Ozzie. So, Ozzie's career, honestly, nobody's probably going to be able to come close to being able to duplicate what he's done. Again, just speaks to the respect and appreciation that I would say we as an organization have, and, I would say D'Amico and I individually have for Ozzie.
All right, I know you don't have feelings like this, but your relatives who are still in the Cleveland area, how do they feel about the Ravens being the former Browns and doing everything they've done because they could have done it in Cleveland?
Yeah,
maybe.
they don't really talk too much about that. So my mom, even she's back home in Cleveland, and she's like kind of tells me, "Oh, what happened with the Browns?" And I'm like, "Mom, like, sorry,
I'm not concerned.
I'm not really worried about the Browns right now. Focused on the Texans."
Yeah. Nick, you mentioned the unicorn, Kyle Hamilton. And over his years of being in Baltimore, it feels like Baltimore has used him in different ways. One year it felt like he was playing almost a will linebacker specifically, and then there are other times where he's playing a true safety. How have they been using him this year, especially with the addition of Starks back there?
Yeah, no, they use him everywhere. I mean, I think you've seen a little bit more true safety with him and Malachi because Marlon's as good of an inside the formation player as is in the league. So depending on his status, maybe they make some modifications or adjustments, even going back to last year and previously. Yep. Kyle's played some big nickel or some nickel role. So, I mean, Kyle's big, he's long, he's athletic, he's very instinctive, he's very smart, and he has the ability to affect the game in a positive way for the Ravens defense, negative for the opposing offense. So he's a good football player. There's a reason they rewarded him with the contract extension that they did, and he earned it. He's earned it.
Nick, every week I'm going to ask you about special teams because I continue to be blown away about the impact of that third phase of the game. And it's maybe a second phase now or 1.5, 2.5, whatever it is, because big plays galore all around the league.
Honestly, it's almost a weekly conversation, Vandy, to your point. Yeah. So we saw the other day, another blocked field goal at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. We saw a blocked extra point, which was converts to points. You've seen multiple returns. We figured going into the season, the return game was going to factor in even maybe more so than it has in the past, and that's really come to fruition. We take a lot of pride in the kicking game and what we do and how we approach it, and the players internalize that as well because it can impact winning and or losing. It can go either way. So special teams is really the third phase, so you have to allocate as much time and resources to that phase as you do offensively and defensively because you never really know where that winning play is going to come from, what phase is going to impact the game the most.
Has the practice time changed for special teams in the last few years since we were in that era of zero returns, seemingly?
Yeah, special teams coaches are always asking for more practice. I think that's pretty universal around the league. So we spend enough time on it, and I'm sure Frank, if he needs to steal a few minutes, I'm sure he'll beg D'Amico for it.
Kind of building along those lines, Nick, with the special teams, there have been returns. It's been the blocks. Tampa Bay, we had one against Tampa Bay. Then the Eagles go block one and return it back. You mentioned Josh Blackwell with the Bears off the edge, which always baffles me how the guy off the edge can block a field goal in the NFL. But either way, it feels like the blocks have been happening way more. The Eagles had 2 against the Rams. Is there a reason for that that you could surmise?
No, other than, teams are emphasizing it and they're allocating time and resources and personnel. You're seeing starting caliber players that are involved in that phase. So you have players that are either starters in offense, starters on defense, or starters in a kicking game. And so those players are taking on significantly more relevance and are more important. And comes down to commitment and fundamentals and techniques. When you're blocking edge rushers, there's a certain technique that you want to use. You can't just cut the guy loose. You're trying to be conscious inside, but also have conscious outside. So who's blocking on the edge? There's a lot of things. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just roll the ball out there and kick an extra point, kick a field goal. There's definitely a strategy that's involved, and it speaks to the coaching in that phase. And again, going back to Baltimore, Coach Harbaugh came up in the kicking game. Coach Horton's there now, but they put a lot of time into that phase, and you can't spend too much time on it because it could win or lose you a game. There's no question.
How about your rookie long snapper, Austin Brinkman? Part of the operation, so important. He and Tommy and Kaimi get it together or keep it together.
Yeah, those 3 players spend pretty much the whole day together, entire practice together. So there's timing, snapping, and working more, seeing different looks. So Brink is learning. He's done a decent job. He's been taxed at different points. So pump protection is important. It's a product of the people around you as well. But Brink's got a really good attitude. He works hard. He's quiet, doesn't say too much, and he's improving, and that's all you can really ask for in younger players.
Okay, today is the 50th anniversary of one of the greatest sporting events of all time. And for some reason, it's the first sporting event that I remember because I always used to show up on Wide World of Sports. I know we all watched that growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
The Thrill in Manila. Ali Frazier, the third fight between them. Ali's talked about that fight like he said it was the closest to death. And it got me thinking because I remembered that fight when I was a young kid. And it's kind of stayed with me forever. 50th anniversary. Is there a major sporting event that you remember growing up as a kid, like one of the first ones that you ever remember? You're like, man, I remember that Super Bowl. I remember the NBA Finals. Is there one that stands out for you?
WrestleMania.
No, we'll leave WrestleMania. Actually, I have two. When Tyson was fighting, some of his fights where you didn't want to miss those because you really didn't know what was going to happen. So I would say some of the Tyson fights, and then I was a Duke fan growing up. So I distinctly remember the Laettner shot against Kentucky. I mean, that stood out. I was in my living room. I was by myself. I mean, literally, I was like screaming and hollering with nobody around. But I would say those are probably two illustrative examples of I distinctly kind of remember those two situations. But I mean, there's so many. Look, the thing about sports is there's been so many great events and so many great opportunities, and to see peak performers at the highest level. I mean, that's what the fans want to see on a week-to-week basis, and hopefully we can provide them for the people here in Houston as well.
All right, I have an important question here.
I'm sure you do.
After a Texans victory on the following day, Nick, a lot of things happened food-wise. Pizza Hut 50% off.
Oh, I know the answer to this.
No, you have 6
I
free
didn't have
wings from
anything
Buffalo
pizza,
Wild
sorry.
Wings.
I didn't partake.
We'll set you up here. 6 free wings from Buffalo Wild Wings when the Texans force a turnover. If the Texans have a passing touchdown, you get 6 free McNuggets at McDonald's. So you have to have one of these things. Now, look, I know these things are not advertised as health food.
One of these?
Yes, if you had to pick one of these things, and it's not really playing favorites.
I
They're all
blacked
good.
out on the list. All right,
so
Pizza Hut.
Wings from Buffalo Wild Wings or McNuggets from McDonald's?
I would probably have the McNuggets and take the breading off.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if that's allowed. Okay, we'll accept the answer. Not the wings,
I thought maybe the wings
don't have breading.
I was waiting for wings with no sauce, just maybe salt and pepper.
Good try.
Yeah, I thought that was coming. Okay.
Nick, thanks a lot. Good luck this week.
Thanks, fellas.